morning and welcome to Breaking the Rules. I'm your host, Ray Lowe, and by the way, I'm also the luckiest guy in the world. And the luckiest guy in the world is not a job title that I have, nor is it a contest that I won. What it is it's a state of being. It's how you feel when everything in your life kind of comes together and you feel like you're living a life that you personally invented just for you. And the beauty of this is that every day when you wake up, you're excited about what you have scheduled for the day. And at the end of the day, you get a chance to think about the day and you find that you've really delivered value to the people around you. And probably most important is that the people around you respond and tell you how much they appreciate you. And that feedback makes you feel like the luckiest guy in the world. So today I have with me Casey Dempster as my co-host, and she has been with the Luckiest Guy in the World program since its inception. She has had an unbelievable effect on developing our strategies for our courses, our TV show, our blogs, etc. And Casey, welcome.
Thanks, Ray. And I wanted to just make a point for our viewers to talk about the name of our show, Breaking the Rules. And the reason we're calling it that is because life is about change. We all have to experience it in one way or another. But just because things have been done a certain way doesn't mean that we always have to do it that way. And in fact, I have a quote that I found by a woman named Teresa Ann Fowler, and she said, "Some rules are nothing but old habits that people are afraid to change." And I think that that's really profound because we don't always have to do things a certain way, and sometimes it really doesn't fit us to do things that way. So we should be brave enough to consider changing the rules so that we can be most effective.
So we're going to break some rules today, right?
Always,
okay.
Always.
All right, so today what our show is about, and we've got an unbelievable guest later on,
yes.
But she's a surprise. She comes on the second segment. But today we're going to talk about how many people out there hate their jobs. And you know, I heard rumors about this. I never realized it was as broad a spectrum as it is.
I know, and in fact, I went online and just put into Google, I put people hate their jobs. And I got over 500 million hits. That's a $500 million, if you think about it, about people who hate their jobs. So it's a pretty broad spectrum problem across the world, not just in the United States.
And Gallup has been surveying people for quite some time now about this. And I know they had, sometimes this stuff gets skewed a little bit, but I think the latest statistic was that 85% of the population of the world is not happy with their jobs.
Yes, I saw that in the Google.
Okay, so now that we kind of got that, and by the way, I didn't believe that statistic, so I kind of went out and I did my own survey. I did not survey 500 million people, but the 10 that I saw, you get a strong indication that people really are not happy, and that this is a much broader problem than you think it is. And we're going to give you the solution later on because we have it today. But let's talk about why this problem is so big. Why is it?
It is, and there are a lot of reasons. And in fact, in doing the Google or the Gallup poll, they asked workers to answer 12 questions in a true or false response. And I won't read them all, but it seems like one is, I know what is expected of me at work. And sometimes a manager isn't clear about what they want from you. I have the material and equipment I need to do my job. Sometimes you're not given that. My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person, and that's really, it's more important than a lot of people would like to think. One of the things that they mentioned was bad management, and I think that has to do with maybe people who are very good at what they do and they can continually get promoted, but they're not necessarily meant to be managers. They're meant to be good at what they were good at. So sometimes a manager is just not cut out to be leading people. And people wanted to know that their opinions count, and that's just a few. I mean, there are a lot of other reasons.
You know, I remember a cycle that I went through personally. I got out of college, and of course, the first thing you do is you want to get a job, right?
Right.
And you're going out there, and you're not sure what you want to do really in life at that point in time. So what do? You take the job that's going to pay the most likely, right? And I did pretty well. So, you know, I did my thing, and I got pay raises, and I got promoted. And all of a sudden, I got to this point in time where the pay raises were slowing down, the promotions were slowing down, and I wasn't happy. And I think what happens, and Peter Drucker, I think, brought this up, the old Peter principle. It's you get promoted to the level of your incompetence, or in this case, your unhappiness. Okay, and I think there's some other things. You mentioned the resistance to change. It's really hard when you don't truly hate your job. I mean, this isn't the end of the world. You're in kind of job limbo over here. So there's not enough emphasis to say I'm going to change, but there is unhappiness.
Right.
So how do you do that? And let's talk about this thing called unique ability for a minute, which is one of the things you love to talk about, and it's usually missing at this point.
That's right. And Dan Sullivan, who developed the Strategic Coach program, talks about unique ability as that thing in yourself that you sometimes, it's so instinctive and so inborn that you don't even know what you're doing. But it's something that you do so well, and people appreciate it. And if you're allowed to work in that range, generally you work very well, and you can work much longer. It's not as tiring to you.
So you need to be proactive.
Yes.
And you need to understand you too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we're coming up pretty close to our break over here. You have any comments before we go to break?
No, but I'm really looking forward to what Sarah has to tell us.
Because we have an answer, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and
Yes,
the
we
answer is the Book of You, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes after our break here, and we'll introduce Sarah Brown.
Great.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales.
Build attendance for an event.
Help people find their way. Fast Signs designed new directional signage.
And got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
Welcome to Live Better Longer, the show for baby boomers who want to improve and even extend their retirement years. I'm your host, Bill Borton. On Live Better Longer, our viewers meet and learn from a wide variety of experts and thought leaders who share their knowledge on subjects ranging from portfolio management to nutrition management, from insurance, Social Security, and reverse mortgages, to annuities, Medicare, and Roth IRA conversions. Not just thought-provoking and actionable information, but why it's important to you. Tune in every Tuesday at 11 on RVN TV for reliable and unbiased information from experts in their field who are committed to helping you live better longer.
Is your business growing and now you need a new and bigger building? Has your organization outgrown their facility and now it's time to expand?
Do your hobbies require the need for more space?
If you're paying rent, but now you want the advantages of owning, the prospect of financing, construction, and on-time completion may seem out of your reach. General Steel Corporation has the answer.
A pre-engineered steel building from the General will not only look great and satisfy almost any need, but you'll save time and money. Our team will help you create your building and deliver it to your location. We offer design services to help you present your concept to board members, bankers, or for fundraising. And the General can even help with financing.
General Steel is a name you know, with quality backed by a 50-year structural warranty. Call today and find out how easy it is to have the building you want.
You may even save up to $20,000 with rebates. If you need space, you need the General.
So Sarah Brown, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Ray.
I've been so excited about this because the Book of You, I mean, just the name intrigues me. And it really is a book of me, isn't it?
It's all about you, with information just for you and specific advice for you only.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about this, but I want to know a little bit about you first, because you came out of corporate America and you put a lot of time and energy into the Book of You and developing you. Why?
Well, Ray, in my last job in corporate America, I was a managing director with Accenture, which is a large consulting and outsourcing firm. And I loved my job and I loved my clients. Most of them were women. But you know what? Most of them were unhappy in your job, just like you were talking about in the last segment. And when I would ask them, what do you want to be happy? They couldn't answer the question. And I realized there's a big need to help people understand what it is that's unique about them and what they can do with it to be happier and more successful.
Wow. So you developed this process, and you put enough money into it to automate the process to some extent that you can do this reasonably economically and everything else. So tell me a little bit about your background. I know you have a PhD, so we know you're smart, okay? Tell me about your PhD and what it's about.
My degree is in a field called Psychoeducational Processes. That's a combination of group psychology and adult learning. And I have over 15 years of talent management experience, which is the hiring and the training and development of workers. So I have a background that equips me to do this.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about a couple of stories here. Okay. So you were telling me about Peter. Tell me about Peter.
Peter is a very interesting story. He and his wife had 2 small children, and they wanted to move closer to the grandparents so that the grandparents and grandkids could get to know each other well. And his father-in-law thought, you know, in this process, he's not as happy as I think he could be in his sales roles. So he got Peter a book of you. And Peter worked through the process with his wife as his coach and figured out that sales was not the best choice for him. And what he did with that information was to figure out the exact type of job that would suit his personality. And he got an interview. It was a networking interview, as a matter of fact. And he was just going in and trying to see what he could find out about a new type of job. And the hiring manager looked at him and said, you know, Peter, I'm really confused why you're here because you don't have any background like this that's comparable to this job. And Peter said, you know, I've just worked through this process and figured out exactly what my interests, my behavioral strengths, and what my motivational needs are. And I figured out that this kind of job is ideal for me. And you know what? He was so convincing he got a job offer on the spot.
Wow. So here was a person that just changed fields as a result of the book of you, right? Okay, now you also told me about a young lady in this case that was going into a partnership with another person, and she used the book of you in a different way. Tell us about that.
Well, let's call her Nicole. That's not her real name. But she was an entrepreneur, and she was actually a good personality fit to be an entrepreneur. But she was getting ready to go into a business venture with a person that she didn't know very well. And she had some inklings that this was not right, that there was some friction there that she just couldn't put her finger on. So she came to me, she got a book of you, and she really understood, got clear about her behavioral strengths and her motivational needs. And she realized that the relationship between this individual that she was proposing to do business with and herself was not going to be a good fit. And so she was able to then end the relationship gracefully without having a lot of pain of going through something that wasn't going to work.
Okay, so here's a second example. Very different than the first one, right? Okay, so let's take a third one. So we have a woman who suddenly found herself retired and not necessarily by choice, right?
Yes, and this happens a lot. So we'll call her Celine. So Celine found herself retired unexpectedly. And she didn't have sufficient income at that point in time that she could just quit work. So she had to do something to build some supplemental income. And she was looking at a whole host of jobs and asking me, would this be a good fit? Would this be a good fit? And none of them were. And so we worked through the process with her, and she came to understand she was a natural entrepreneur. And she needed to have a whole host of a variety of different businesses that she could be engaged in. And so now she has 2 businesses that she's started, and she's making the income she needs and having the time of her life.
Wow. So, okay, so these are 3 people who actually made changes from one job to another for different reasons, right? What about people who just wake up one day and realize that they're not happy doing what they're doing, but they don't necessarily want to quit and change jobs? How does the Book of You help them?
Well, in fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Ray, because I don't recommend that people just change jobs. The first thing to do is to see if you can make changes in the job that you're in to increase your happiness and success there. So Helen is an example of somebody who did that. And Helen went through the process, and then she took a summary of herself. She was an executive director for a nonprofit. She took a summary of herself to her board of directors. And she said, if you want to get the most from me, here are my strengths, and this is where I need to be focused. And here are my motivational needs. This is what I need back from you. And was able to craft the changes with her board of directors to dramatically change the environment in which she was working for herself.
Okay, now Helen was at a fairly high level, okay, and her board obviously responded and she had some clout there. What happens when you're not quite at that level? You know, sometimes I find in the corporate world that the corporate world takes on a meaning of its own, you know. What do you do then?
Well, there are two things that you can do. The first is you can certainly work with your colleagues and create the environment that you want from your colleagues by helping them understand what your strengths are and what your needs are, what you can give to them and what they can give back to you. And the second thing is your boss wants nothing more than for you to be successful. So if you can help him or her understand how best to utilize you, that will be better for everyone.
Wow, those are some great stories. So this all comes out of the Book of You. We're going to take a break in a second or two here, and when we come back, we're going to talk specifically about this book. How do you get it? How do you make it work for you? What's going to happen as you go through the process? And it's exciting, Sarah.
Great.
So let's take our break.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He does the work of 2 jobs, but only gets paid for one. He's tough enough to feed the man that gave him a lifetime of nourishment. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. That's right, no employee of the month bonus check here. This guy, no, this warrior, will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. Good luck finding a gym to train for that. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Hi, I'm Shanna McIntyre, and I'm the host of Let's Do Life, a brand new show on RVN TV. Let's be honest, life isn't easy and it can get pretty messy sometimes. Have you ever felt like you had to figure it all out on your own? We were never meant to do it alone. Life is meant to be lived together. This show will encourage you and give you practical tools on how to deal with life's real challenges. So tune in on Wednesdays at 12:30 and let's learn how to do life together on Let's Do Life.
Okay, we are back with Sarah Brown, and Sarah, again, thank you for those great examples that you gave us before, but now let's talk specifically about this book. Okay, this really is a book of you. It's custom, isn't it?
It is. It's all about you with information that is unique to you and specific suggestions for you. I call it a coach in a book because it's personalized to you.
Okay, so how do we get this? I mean, you know, obviously I order a book somewhere, but I don't go to Amazon for this, right?
No, the only place you can get this is on my website, which is bookofyou.com. And you start by taking a world-renowned personality assessment. It takes about 30 minutes. And then when I get the data back from that, I'm able to generate a book all about you and send it to you. And it contains a process that you can work through with somebody who knows and cares about you, who can serve as your coach. But that person doesn't need to be trained in any specific way because I tell you exactly what to talk to this person about.
Okay, so in the process, so how long does it take me to do this?
It will take you about 30 minutes to take the assessment. When you get the book back, I suggest that you go through a process that won't take you more than a couple minutes a day for 21 days to internalize it and figure out how you're going to act on the information.
Okay, and this really isn't that expensive either. How much does it cost me to do this?
It's going to cost you $50 or less to do this.
Wow. So $50 and a half an hour of my time, I get a book of you, and I get a 21-day plan?
A 21-day plan to internalize the information and figure out exactly what action steps you're going to take to become happier, more successful, and better understood in the workplace.
Okay, give me that again. I'm going to become happier,
more successful, and better understood in the workplace. You will not be one of the statistics that we talked about on the first segment.
Okay. Now, when we look at this, okay, I have to implement this 21-day plan, and there's specific instructions on how to do that.
Yes.
Anybody I need here? You mentioned a coach before.
Anybody who knows and cares about you can serve as your coach. You can, and I tell you exactly what to talk to that person about.
Okay, and so we're going to go through this process, and I wind up with a book of you. Now I take that book of you, and what am I going to do with it? I go back to my workplace.
And you will have specific suggestions on small changes that you can make to be happier, more successful, and better understood by your colleagues, by your boss, by your customers, by anybody that you interact with in the workplace.
Okay, so this is a process, and although it's 21 days, in the long term, you kind of renew this process all the time, don't you? Okay.
Yes.
And so it's about progress, not perfection?
It's about progress, not perfection. And the book of you then becomes your reference manual.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit. I know I get this now, but I go to your website. I've got a 30-minute time investment. I can't see any reason why I want to do this. We mentioned 4 types of people that would benefit from this. Anybody else that you can think of?
Well, I've found that some college students don't tend to know what they want to do when they get out of school. And this is helpful in getting them pointed in the right direction. But specifically, I think it is very helpful for mid-career professionals and for people that are looking to retire and do something different with their life.
Okay, let's go back to this college student thing for a minute, because that's really a problem today. You know, kids go to college, college costs a lot of money, okay? And often they have no idea what they want to be in their lives. This isn't going to pick a career from them, but it's going to tell them some things about them. Is that correct?
It is going to tell them what their interests, their strengths, and their needs are. And they can use that information to determine whether or not a career is going to be right for them.
So this is a grandparent Christmas gift that ought to be there, right?
It is. And grandparents can work through it at the same time as they're figuring out what they're going to do in retirement.
Wow. Okay. I want to go back to you a little bit, because you put this together, you created this all yourself, you came out of corporate America. Most people just retire and walk off into the sunset. You didn't do this, okay? Let's talk about your passion. You mentioned the women that you kind of worked with, and you gave me a number, about 250 billion women that you want to work with, or something like that.
Well, it's actually 200. My goal is to reach 250,000 women with knowledge of their interests, strengths, and needs, so that they can do what they love and love what they do. And I believe when they do that, they're going to be a real gift to the world.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to put this together. We've got the book of you. Do you have any other stories that you want to tell us?
Well, I can tell you the story of me.
Okay.
Because when I was in corporate America and I was observing all of these women, I realized that I was not as happy as I could be. So I had to work through this process myself. And what came out of it was I realized that I needed to go back to something that I knew innately all along, that my gifts and where I was going to be happiest was where I was teaching, when I was writing, and when I was doing research. And that's what I'm doing now.
So how did you make that change? I mean, you know, it's great that you found that out, and that's starting point number one. What'd you have to do? Did you quit your job?
I did. I retired early and started this venture.
Okay. And you found out that you're an entrepreneur at heart too.
Right.
Okay. Any other parting comments that you want to leave us with as we leave our guests in a little bit?
Well, the one thing that I will say is that when you're happy doing what you love doing, you're going to be a gift to the world. So this is worth doing, is getting in touch with who you are and finding the work that will be uniquely suited to that.
Wow. I think, you know, I don't know if there's anything else to say over there. I can tell you that from my personal point of view, I've gone through this trauma in my life, you know, and how do you make changes? It's difficult without a guide. And so you're going to give us this guide to make things happen and help us do some things. And I think it's great. And Sarah, let's recap. How do you get this book?
bookofyou.com.
And it's $50. And it's 30 minutes of your time invested to do this. And at the end, you have a 21-day plan. And then you're going to implement this 21-day plan, and you're going to be on a road to being more successful and happier. And
happier, more successful, and better understood in the workplace.
Okay, great. I think it's time to close our show down, and thank you very much for being with us. And I look forward to going online and getting this book. And I want a history. I want to get you back at some point in time, and I want to talk about how you're putting this dent into working with 250,000 women. Because I think that's a market that really needs to be expanded, and I think women sometimes just don't have the confidence to do that.
Well, thank you, Ray. It's been a pleasure.
That's great. And thanks for being with us.
Mm-hmm.